The great hall of the Veltar Empire stretched high into the darkness above. Crystal walls glowed with soft blue light, casting long shadows across the polished floor. In the center of this vast room, two young women stood in chains that sparkled, like diamonds but felt as heavy as lead. Zara kept her head up, her silver eyes defiant as she faced the 5 judges sitting on their floating thrones. Her dark hair fell past her shoulders, and her pale skin had the slight silver tint that marked all Veltar people. Next to her, Keth trembled slightly, her hands shaking as she stared at the floor. Keth's shorter frame and gentle features made her look even younger than her 23 years. "You stand accused of the highest crimes against the Empire," announced the chief judge, his voice echoing through the hall like thunder. His ancient face showed no emotion as he read from the glowing tablet in his hands. Sabotage of Imperial mining operations, interference with lawful subjugation of primitive species, treason against the natural order. Zara lifted her chin higher. "We call it saving innocent lives," the judges murmured among themselves. Such defiance was rare in their perfect society. Most criminals begged for mercy by now, but these two young women had already shown they were different. "The humans you try to protect are nothing but animals," said Judge Velox, her voice sharp with disgust. "They live short, violent lives. They destroy their own planet. They kill each other over resources that we could provide in abundance. They are not worthy of protection." "That's not true," Keth whispered, finally raising her head. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "I studied them. They create beautiful art. They care for their sick. They love their children. They're not animals." Judge Velox laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Love? You speak of love as if it matters. Love is a weakness that holds back progress. Our Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds precisely because we do not allow such foolish emotions to cloud our judgment." The chief judge raised his hand for silence. "You have both confessed to your crimes. The only question now is your punishment." He paused, looking down at them with cold calculation. "Death would be too quick. Life imprisonment would make you martyrs. No, you need to learn the truth about the creatures you tried to save." A new voice spoke from behind the judges' thrones. "I have a suggestion." Commander Thek stepped into the light, his military uniform sharp and clean. He had trained Zara in combat engineering before her foolish humanitarian mission. Now he looked at her with something like sadness in his eyes. "Speak," commanded the chief judge. "Send them to live among the humans," Thek said slowly. "Let them see firsthand how savage these creatures really are. When they inevitably die from the humans' violence or the planet's toxic conditions, it will serve as a warning to others who might question our methods." The judges considered this. It was creative. It was cruel. It would make a perfect example. "Earth," said Judge Velox, consulting her own tablet. "The 3rd planet in their system. Our scouts report it is filled with war, pollution, and chaos. The atmosphere is poisonous to most civilized species. The dominant species, these humans, kill each other constantly over trivial disputes." "Perfect," agreed the chief judge. "Strip them of all technology except basic translation devices. Drop them in one of the humans' largest population centers. They will not survive a month." Keth made a small sound of fear, but Zara just nodded grimly. She had expected death. Exile was better, even if it led to the same end. "However," the chief judge continued, "if by some miracle they survive 1 full year, they may request extraction. Of course, they will still face trial for their crimes, but we are not completely without mercy." 2 guards stepped forward to remove their chains. Zara felt the weight lift from her wrists, but somehow felt even heavier inside. She reached for Keth's hand and squeezed it gently. "We'll be okay," she whispered. Commander Thex approached them, as the guards led them toward the transport bay. "Zara," he said quietly, "this doesn't have to be the end. Prove that you were wrong about the humans. Show proper remorse for your crimes. When you request extraction, the judges might show leniency." Zara looked at him steadily. "What if we weren't wrong?" Thex's expression hardened. "Then you'll die on that primitive world, and the Empire will continue its work without you." The transport ship was small and simple, designed for one-way trips to hostile planets. Zara and Keth sat in silence as it carried them away from everything they had ever known. Through the small window, they watched their home world shrink until it was just another star in the darkness. "Are you scared?" Keth asked after a long time. "Yes," Zara admitted. "But I'm also curious. What if the humans aren't what our people think they are?" "What if they are?" Keth replied softly. Zara didn't answer. She was thinking about the reports she had read, the intelligence briefings that described Earth as a world of endless violence and suffering. But she was also thinking about the transmissions they had intercepted, music that made no sense according to Veltar aesthetic principles, but somehow moved the heart. Stories of humans risking their lives to save strangers, images of art that served no practical purpose except to create beauty. The ship's computer announced their arrival. Through the window they could see a blue and green world spinning slowly in space. White clouds swirled across its surface, and the land masses were brown and green instead of the purple and silver of Veltar worlds. "It's beautiful," Keth breathed. "It's primitive," Zara said, but her voice lacked conviction. The ship shuddered as it entered the atmosphere. Their destination was already programmed, a major population center where they would be dropped with nothing but the clothes on their backs and translation devices implanted behind their ears. As the ship descended through the clouds, they caught their first glimpse of a human city. Towering structures of glass and metal reached toward the sky, connected by ribbons of moving vehicles. Lights twinkled like stars across the landscape. "That doesn't look savage," Keth observed. The ship touched down in an empty area between buildings. The exit hatch hissed open, letting in alien air that smelled of vehicle exhaust, cooking food, and something else, something alive and growing. "Good luck," the ship's computer said in its flat, emotionless voice. "You will need it." Zara and Keth stepped out onto the strange world that was now their prison. The hatch sealed behind them, and the ship lifted off, leaving them alone on Earth. They stood in what appeared to be a small park surrounded by the enormous human buildings. Strange sounds filled the air, mechanical noises, but also sounds that might have been voices. In the distance, they could hear something that sounded almost like music. "Well," Zara said, looking around at their new world, "I guess we're about to find out who was right about humans." Keth nodded, clutching Zara's arm as they took their first steps into the unknown. The first thing Zara noticed about human cities was the noise. It was everywhere. Cars rumbling past, people talking, music drifting from open windows, and 100 other sounds she couldn't identify. On Veltar worlds, cities were silent except for the soft hum of perfectly efficient machines. The second thing she noticed was the smells. Food cooking somewhere nearby made her stomach growl with sudden hunger. The air carried scents of flowers from the small park where they had landed, mixed with exhaust from vehicles and something else, something that smelled like life itself. "Zara," Keth whispered, pointing toward the edge of the park. "Look." A small group of humans sat on wooden benches, sharing food from paper containers. They were laughing about something, their faces bright with joy. One of them, an elderly man, was feeding small birds that hopped around his feet without fear. "They don't look savage," Keth said. "Maybe they're just not hungry yet," Zara replied, but she was watching the humans with growing fascination. Their movements were different from Veltar people, less precise, but somehow more alive. A child's ball rolled toward them across the grass. A small human with dark skin and bright eyes came running after it, then stopped short when she saw the two aliens. For a moment, Zara tensed, expecting the child to scream or run away. Instead, the little girl tilted her head curiously. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You look lost." The translation device in Zara's ear worked perfectly, converting the human's strange sounds into words she could understand. Yes, we are lost," she admitted. "Mom," the child called toward the benches. "These ladies need help." A woman hurried over, worry clear on her face. When she saw Zara and Keth, their unusual height, pale skin with its silver tint and large dark eyes, She paused for just a moment. Then her expression softened into concern. "Are you hurt?" she asked gently. "Do you need help?" Keth swayed slightly on her feet. The journey and the stress of exile had taken more from her than she wanted to admit. The human woman reached out instinctively to steady her. "I'm okay," Keth said, but her voice was weak. "No, you're not," the woman said firmly but kindly. "Come on, let me call someone who can help." Within minutes, a white vehicle with flashing lights arrived. 2 humans in uniform stepped out, and Zara tensed, ready to fight or run. But these humans moved with the same gentle concern as the woman. "I'm Marcus," said one of them, a tall man with kind eyes and steady hands. "I'm a paramedic. I help people who are sick or hurt. Can you tell me what's wrong?" "We're just tired," Zara said carefully. Marcus nodded, but his eyes took in their unusual appearance without judgment. "You're not from around here, are you?" It wasn't really a question. Zara met his gaze steadily. "No, we're not." "Well, wherever you're from, you look like you need food and rest," Marcus said. "There's a shelter not far from here where you can stay tonight. My friend Elena runs it. She's good people." The other paramedic, a woman with short gray hair, was gently checking Keth's pulse and temperature. "You're running a little low on everything," she told Keth with a smile. "When's the last time you ate?" Keth couldn't remember. Time on the ship had been strange, and before that they had been in prison for days. "Right," Marcus said. "Elena's place it is. Come on, we'll give you a ride." Zara hesitated. Everything she had learned about humans said they were violent and treacherous. These people were being kind, but it might be a trap. On the other hand, she and Keth had no other options. "Thank you," she said finally. The ride through the human city amazed both aliens. The buildings were constructed in ways that shouldn't work according to Veltar engineering principles, yet they stood tall and strong. Humans moved everywhere. Walking, riding in vehicles, sitting in outdoor cafes, talking and laughing. Children played in small spaces between buildings, their joy obvious even through the vehicle's windows. "It's so alive," Keth murmured. Marcus glanced back at them. "Chicago's a good city, tough sometimes, but good people mostly." The shelter was a simple building, but warm light spilled from its windows. Elena met them at the door, a woman with kind eyes and calloused hands that spoke of hard work. When she saw Zara and Keth, her expression showed the same moment of surprise as the others, followed immediately by welcoming concern. "More travelers," she said with a smile. Come in, come in. You both look like you could use a hot meal and a safe place to sleep." Inside, the shelter was full of humans in various states of need. Some looked tired and worn, others sick or injured. But all of them were being cared for by other humans who asked for nothing in return. Zara watched in growing confusion as Elena and her volunteers provided food, medical care, and simple kindness to anyone who needed it. "Why do you do this?" Zara asked Elena as they sat down to eat. "Do what?" Elena replied, setting bowls of hot soup in front of them. "Help strangers, people who can't give you anything back." Elena looked puzzled by the question. "Because they need help. Isn't that enough?" According to everything Zara had learned about humans, it shouldn't be enough. Humans were supposed to be selfish, violent, and cruel. Yet here she sat, warm and fed, surrounded by humans who had shown them nothing but kindness since the moment they arrived. "Where are you from?" Elena asked gently. "Your English is perfect, but something about the way you speak, and you look." "Far away," Keth said softly. "Very far away." Elena nodded as if this explained everything. "Refugees," she said with understanding. "I thought so. Don't worry, you're safe here. We don't ask questions people aren't ready to answer." That night, lying on clean beds in a warm room, Zara and Keth talked in whispers. "They think we're refugees," Keth said. "Humans helping other humans who are lost and afraid." "But we're not human," Zara pointed out. "Are we sure they can't tell?" Keth asked. "I mean, we look different but not completely different, and they haven't seemed afraid of us." Zara thought about this. It was true that their differences from humans were subtle: height, skin tone, eye size. To someone who had never seen a Veltar before, they might just look like humans from a different region. Maybe, she said. Or maybe humans are more accepting of differences than our people told us. Over the next few days, Elena helped them navigate the strange world of human society. She showed them how to apply for identification documents, how to find work, how to use human transportation systems. Every system was less efficient than Veltar equivalents, but also more flexible, more forgiving of individual differences. The thing about humans, Elena explained as she helped them fill out paperwork, is that we're all just trying to figure it out as we go. Nobody has all the answers, so we help each other when we can. Marcus visited them often, usually after his work shifts. He brought food, helped them practice their English, and answered their questions about human culture. Zara found herself looking forward to his visits more than she wanted to admit. "You're engineers where you come from?" he asked one evening, watching Zara sketch improvements to the shelter's heating system. "Something like that," Zara said. "And Keth's some kind of scientist?" Keth looked up from the medical textbook she was reading. "I study living things." "Biology," Marcus said with a nod. "Cool. We could use more people like you two around here." As the days passed, both aliens began to understand that everything they had been taught about humans was wrong. Humans weren't perfect. They had problems, conflicts, and flaws. But they also had something Zara had never seen in Veltar society: the ability to care about strangers, to help without expecting reward, to find joy in simple things. "I think," Keth said one morning as they watched human children play in the street below their window, "we might be the lucky ones." "The lucky?" Zara asked. "We're exiles on a primitive world." "No," Keth said softly. "We're free on a world where people choose to be kind." 3 months after arriving on Earth, Zara stood on a construction site wearing a hard hat that read Chen Construction in faded letters. Around her, human workers moved with practiced efficiency, building something that shouldn't stand according to every engineering principle she knew, yet somehow would. "Hey, Zara," called Jake, the foreman, a stocky man with graying hair and kind eyes. "We need your magic touch on the foundation again." Zara smiled and headed toward the problem area. The humans had started calling her solutions magic because she could see stress patterns and structural weaknesses that their instruments missed. What they didn't know was that her Veltar-enhanced vision let her see the tiny movements and energy flows that revealed how forces moved through buildings. But the real magic, Zara had learned, was how humans approached problems. Where Veltar engineers would calculate the perfect solution and implement it exactly, humans tried things, adjusted, tried again. Their buildings were stronger because they learned from each mistake. "The concrete here is setting wrong," she told Jake, running, her hand along the foundation. "Too much vibration from the street. We need to adjust the mix." "How can you tell?" asked Sam, a young worker who reminded Zara of herself at that age. Eager to learn, always asking questions. "Experience," Zara said, which was true enough. She had learned more about construction in 3 months with humans than in years of Veltar engineering training. The work was hard but satisfying. Her enhanced strength made her valuable for heavy lifting, but the humans valued her mind more than her muscle. They asked her opinion, listened to her ideas, and treated her as an equal despite her obvious differences. "You want to grab dinner after work?" Jake asked as they cleaned up for the day. "My wife's making her famous pasta and she always cooks too much." "Thank you," Zara said, "but I'm meeting Marcus tonight." Jake grinned. "That paramedic still coming around?" "Good for you. He's a decent guy." The walk back to the shelter gave Zara time to think. In Veltar society, relationships were arranged for genetic compatibility and social advantage. The idea of choosing a partner based on personal feelings was considered primitive and inefficient. But watching Marcus work, seeing how he cared for people who couldn't help him in return, Zara was beginning to understand that humans might be right about this too. Meanwhile, across the city, Keth was having her own revelations at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. She knelt beside a cage holding an injured hawk, her enhanced senses telling her exactly what was wrong with the bird's wing and how to fix it. "It's amazing," said Dr. Sarah Chen, watching Keth work. "You have better instincts with animals than people who've been doing this for decades." Keth smiled softly. "Living things want to heal. You just have to listen to what they need." This was something she could never have said on her homeworld. Veltar science was about control and manipulation. Human science, she was learning, was about understanding and cooperation. "The bone is setting wrong," Keth said, gently adjusting the hawk's wing. "If we change the splint angle just a little," the hawk settled immediately, its stress levels dropping as the pain eased. Dr. Chen made notes, but Keth could see she was puzzled by the quick improvement. "Where did you learn to do that?" Sarah asked. "I just feel what they feel," Keith said honestly. Sarah nodded as if this made perfect sense. "Empathy. It's rare to find someone with that kind of natural gift." Empathy. On Veltar worlds, feeling what others felt was considered a weakness, a distraction from logical thinking. Here, humans called it a gift. That evening, Keth met Elena at a small cafe near the shelter. Elena had become more than just someone who helped refugees. She had become a friend, something Keth had never experienced in her rigid home society. "You look happy," Elena observed as they shared coffee and pastries. "I am," Keth realized with surprise. "Is that strange? I'm supposed to be in exile, punished for my crimes, but I've never been happier." "What were your crimes?" Elena asked gently. She had waited months before asking, giving Keth time to trust her. "I tried to save people," Keth said simply. "My government wanted to enslave them. I thought that was wrong." Elena reached across the table and squeezed Keith's hand. "Then you weren't a criminal, you were a hero." "My people don't see it that way." "Your people were wrong," Elena said firmly. "And if they couldn't see your worth, then you're better, off here with people who can." Later that night, Zara and Keth met back at the shelter to share their daily experiences, as had become their habit. "Marcus asked me to move in with him," Zara said without preamble. Keth looked up from the medical journal she was reading. "What did you tell him?" "I said I needed to think about it." Zara sat heavily on her bed. "On our world, this would be a simple transaction. Genetic compatibility, social standing, resource sharing. But with Marcus, you love him," Keth said simply. "Is that what this is?" Zara touched her chest where she felt a strange warmth whenever Marcus smiled at her. "This feeling like the air is cleaner when he's around? Like the world makes more sense?" "Yes," Keth said softly. "I think that's exactly what it is." "And you? With Elena?" Keth closed her journal and hugged it to her chest. "She makes me want to be better than I am. Not perfect like our people demand, but better in ways that matter. Kinder, braver, more honest." "The judges expected us to die here," Zara said. "They thought humans would kill us or that we'd die from the toxic environment. Instead, we're living," Keth replied. "Really living, for the first time." The next day brought a crisis that would test everything they had learned about humanity. A gas explosion trapped several workers in a collapsed building downtown. Marcus was among the first responders, and Zara arrived at the site as part of the emergency construction crew. "The main support beam is cracked," Jake told the fire chief. "The whole thing could come down any second." Zara studied the building with her enhanced vision. The damage was worse than the humans could see, but there was a way to save the trapped workers. If someone was willing to take a huge risk. "I can get to them," she told the fire chief. "Too dangerous," he replied. "We'll find another way." But Zara could see there was no other way. The building would collapse within minutes. Without thinking about her own safety, she slipped past the barriers and into the unstable structure. Her enhanced strength and vision let her navigate the dangerous debris. She found 3 workers trapped under a fallen beam, including a young man who reminded her of Sam from her construction crew. "I'm getting you out," she told them, lifting the beam that would have required a crane for humans to move. "How are you?" One of the workers gasped. Later, Zara said. Can you walk? She helped them to safety just as the building completed its collapse behind them. The fire chief stared at her in amazement, but Marcus just pulled her into his arms. Don't ever scare me like that again, he whispered. I couldn't let them die, Zara said. I know, Marcus replied. It's one of the reasons I love you. The words hung in the air between them. Love. The emotion that Veltar society called weakness, that human society called the strongest force in the universe. I love you too, Zara said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. At the rehabilitation center, Keth was having her own moment of truth. A group of injured animals had been brought in from a chemical spill, and several were dying despite the veterinarian's best efforts. There's nothing more we can do, Dr. Chen said sadly. But Keth could sense something the human instruments couldn't detect, a specific toxin that was slowly spreading through the animals' systems. Using knowledge from her Veltar biology training, she created an antidote that saved every single animal. How did you know? Sarah asked afterward. I felt what they felt, Keth said. And I couldn't let them suffer. Sarah looked at her for a long moment. You're not just good with animals. You're extraordinary with them. With everything. She paused. I don't care where you came from or what you're hiding. I only care that you're here. That evening, both couples walked together through the park where Zara and Keth had first landed. The small area that had seemed so strange and frightening now felt like home. Are you happy? Elena asked Keth as they watched children play on the swings. Yes, Keth said without hesitation. For the first time in my life, I'm truly happy. Even though you're far from home? Marcus asked Zara. Zara looked around at the city lights, listened to the sounds of human life continuing its beautiful chaos around them, felt Marcus's warm hand in hers. This is home, she said. Here, with all of you. This is where I belong. 8 months after their exile began, Zara was awakened by a sound that made her blood run cold. The high-pitched whine of Veltar communication technology cut through the Chicago night like a knife. She sat up in Marcus's apartment, where she had been living for the past 2 months. Beside her, Marcus slept peacefully, unaware that everything they had built together was about to be threatened. The sound came again, directly into her head through the emergency channel built into her translation implant. A voice she recognized spoke in the precise, emotionless tone of Veltar military communications. Zara. Keth. Respond immediately. Zara slipped quietly out of bed and stepped onto the balcony. This is Zara, she whispered. Commander Thex here. You will meet me at the coordinates I'm transmitting. Come alone, tell no one. Where's Keth? She has received the same message, 1 hour. The connection ended, leaving Zara staring out at the city she had come to love. In the distance, she could see the lights of the construction site where she worked, the hospital where Marcus saved lives every day, the shelter where Elena continued to help anyone who needed it. An hour later, she and Keith stood in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The familiar outline of Commander Thex materialized as his cloaking field deactivated. He looked exactly the same as when they had left Veltar space, tall, pale, with the silver hair and cold expression of Veltar military elite. You both look different, he observed. It was true. Zara's hair was longer and less perfectly styled. Her clothes were human work clothes instead of Veltar uniforms. Keth wore a simple dress that Elena had given her, and her face had a warmth that had never existed during her life on their homeworld. Earth has been good to us, Zara said carefully. Has it? Thex activated a holographic display showing surveillance, images of them over the past months. You've integrated into their society, formed emotional attachments. This was not expected. We survived, Keth said quietly. That was the point, wasn't it? Survival, yes, but not this. Thex gestured at more images. Zara laughing with her construction crew, Keth gently treating injured animals, both of them holding hands with their human partners. You appear to have forgotten that these are the primitive creatures you were sent here to learn about. We learned, Zara said. We learned that everything we were taught about humans was wrong. Thex's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Perhaps, but that is no longer relevant. You have a choice to make. The holographic display changed, showing star charts and military formations. A Veltar harvesting fleet hung in space beyond Earth's solar system. The Empire has decided that Earth's resources are too valuable to ignore, Thex explained. The harvesting operation will begin in 72 hours. Every human will be processed for useful genetic material, and the planet will be strip-mined for its rare elements. Keth made a small sound of horror. You can't, there are billions of them. 8,700,000,000, Thex said precisely. All primitive, short-lived, and ultimately expendable. They're not expendable, Zara said, her voice rising. They're people. They have families, dreams, art, music. They love each other. Love, Thex repeated with distaste. Yes, I can see that the human emotional contagion has affected you both more severely than anticipated. Which brings me to your choice. A new image appeared. Technical schematics for Earth's early warning systems and defensive satellites. These systems are primitive but functional enough to cause our fleet minor delays, Thex continued. Your task is simple. Disable them. Your knowledge of human technology, combined with your access to their society, makes this trivial. And if we refuse? Zara asked, though she already knew the answer. Then you will die with them. The fleet will arrive regardless. But if you complete this task, you will be extracted and returned to Veltar space. Your crimes will be considered paid for by your service. Keth stepped forward. What guarantee do we have that you'll honor that promise? None, Thex said bluntly, but it is your only chance to survive what is coming. He handed them a small device. This contains the technical specifications you'll need and detailed plans of the human defense systems. You have 72 hours. Why are you doing this? Zara asked. You trained me. You knew I believed in protecting innocent life. For the first time, Thex's expression softened slightly. Because I hoped that living among them would cure you of these dangerous ideas. Instead, it seems to have made them worse. He paused. Complete the mission, Zara. Save yourself and Keth. The humans are doomed either way. After he left, Zara and Keth sat in the empty warehouse, staring at the device in Zara's hands. We can't do it, Keth said finally. I know, but if we don't, everyone dies anyway. Marcus, Elena, Jake, Sarah, all of them. Not if we warn them, Zara said slowly. Not if we help them fight back. Keth looked at her with wide eyes. Fight. The Veltar Empire. Zara, they have technology humans can't even imagine. Weapons that could destroy this entire planet. But humans have something we don't, Zara replied. They have the ability to surprise us, to do things that shouldn't work but do, to unite when threatened. Over the next 24 hours, they made the hardest decision of their lives. They told Marcus and Elena everything, who they really were, where they came from, and what was coming. The revelation went better than they had feared. Marcus sat quietly as Zara explained about the Veltar Empire, alien technology, and their true nature. When she finished, he took her hands in his. I knew you weren't entirely human, he said gently. The way you could see things others missed, your strength, the way you thought about problems. But I didn't care because I knew your heart. Elena's response to Keth was equally accepting. I've worked with refugees from dozens of countries, she said. I know what it looks like when someone is running from something terrible. I just never imagined it was this terrible. But accepting the truth was only the first step. The four of them spent the night developing a plan that would have seemed impossible to anyone who didn't understand both human determination and alien technology. The key is the early warning systems, Zara explained, sketching diagrams on Elena's kitchen table. If we can modify them instead of destroying them, we might be able to level the playing field. How? Marcus asked. Veltar ships depend on energy shields that work on specific frequencies, Zara said. If we can tune Earth's satellites to broadcast disruption signals on those frequencies, their shields fail, Keth finished. It won't stop them, but it will make them vulnerable to human weapons. Will it work? Elena asked. Maybe, Zara admitted. Humans have never fought Veltar before. But Veltar have never fought humans either. They expect easy targets who will surrender immediately. Marcus smiled grimly. Then they don't know humans very well. The next morning, they began the most dangerous phase of their plan. Using Zara's credentials from the construction company and Keth's connections at research facilities, they gained access to military communications networks. The conversation with General Morrison, head of Earth's space defense, was surreal. "Let me understand this," the general said over the secure video link. "You're telling me that aliens are about to invade Earth and you know this because you're aliens yourselves?" "That's correct," Zara said calmly. "And you want to help us fight them?" "Yes." "Why?" Zara looked at Marcus, then back at the screen. "Because Earth is our home now. Because humans are worth protecting. Because love is stronger than fear." The general was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned forward. "Show me what you need." Working around the clock, Zara and Keth helped human engineers modify every defense satellite and early warning system on the planet. The work was exhausting and dangerous. One mistake could alert the Veltar fleet to their plans, but as they worked, something amazing happened. Word spread through military and scientific networks about the coming threat. Instead of panic, there was determination. Countries that had been enemies began sharing technology. Scientists who had competed for decades started collaborating freely. "This is what humans do," Elena told Keth as they watched news reports of the global preparation effort. "When we're threatened, we remember that we're all the same species." On the final night before the fleet's arrival, the four of them stood on the roof of Marcus's building looking up at the stars. "Are you scared?" Marcus asked Zara. "Terrified," she admitted, "but also proud. Whatever happens tomorrow, we chose the right side." Keth squeezed Elena's hand. "I used to think my people were superior because we conquered other worlds. Now I know that humans are superior because you protect each other." In the distance, they could see lights from military bases, research facilities, and communication centers, all working frantically to prepare for humanity's first interstellar war. "Think it will work?" Elena asked. "It has to," Zara replied. "Because the alternative is unthinkable." Above them, invisible to human eyes but clear to their enhanced vision, the first Veltar ships began to appear at the edge of the solar system. The Veltar fleet emerged from hyperspace like silver daggers cutting through the darkness. 50 massive ships hung in formation beyond Earth's moon, their hulls gleaming with the cold perfection of superior technology. On the command ship, Fleet Admiral Korek studied the primitive planet that hung before them like a blue and white jewel. "Scan for the exile signals," he ordered. "Located, Admiral," reported his tactical officer. "Both subjects are alive and on the surface. They appear to have integrated into the local population." "Excellent. They will have disabled the primitive defense systems as ordered. Begin harvesting operations." But as the first wave of Veltar ships moved toward Earth, they encountered something unexpected. Every satellite in Earth's orbit began broadcasting on frequencies that shouldn't have been possible for human technology to generate. "Admiral!" The tactical officer's voice carried a note of panic that was almost unknown in Veltar military service. "Our shields are fluctuating. The harmonics are interfering with our defensive systems. On Earth's surface, in a military command, centered deep beneath Colorado, General Morrison watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. "Phase 1 is working," he announced to the packed room. "All satellites are broadcasting the disruption frequencies. Enemy shields are down to 60% efficiency." Across the room, Zara monitored the modifications she and Keth had made to human weapons systems. "Launching enhanced missile barrage now," she reported. The missiles that streaked toward the Veltar ships were still human technology, but enhanced with principles Zara had learned from Veltar engineering. They moved faster, hit harder, and, most importantly, they worked in ways the Veltar couldn't predict. "Impossible," Admiral Korex breathed as he watched 3 of his ships take heavy damage from weapons that should have been centuries too primitive to threaten them. "How are they penetrating our defenses?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Commander Thex's face appeared on the main screen, transmitting from the planet's surface. "Admiral, the exiles have betrayed the Empire. They have shared our technology with the humans. Find them," Korek snarled. "Bring them to me alive." But finding Zara and Keth would prove more difficult than the Admiral expected. They were no longer alone. They had an entire planet of humans protecting them. In Chicago, Marcus led Zara through maintenance tunnels beneath the city, while Veltar search teams scoured the streets above. "The whole neighborhood is helping," he told her as they moved through the underground network that connected most of the downtown area. "Mrs. Chen from the restaurant is feeding the resistance fighters. Jake organized his construction crew into a communications network. Even the kids are acting as lookouts." "Why?" Zara asked, though she thought she knew the answer. "Because you're one of us now," Marcus said simply. "Because you chose to save us instead of saving yourself." Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Elena guided Keth through a network of safe houses run by her refugee assistance organization. The same skills Elena used to hide people from oppressive governments now helped hide an alien refugee from her own people. "The veterinary hospitals are treating wounded human soldiers," Elena told Keth as they hurried through back alleys. "Sarah has been using the techniques you taught her to save lives. Your knowledge is helping us fight back." Above them, the battle for Earth continued to rage. Human fighters that should have been destroyed instantly by Veltar weapons instead proved surprisingly difficult to kill. The pilots flew with a reckless creativity that Veltar tactical computers couldn't predict or counter. "They're not following any logical attack patterns," the Veltar tactical officer reported in confusion. "They should be maintaining defensive formations, but instead they're improvising." What the Veltar didn't understand was that human pilots had been trained by stories and movies about underdog heroes fighting impossible odds. They knew they were outmatched, but they also knew that sometimes the impossible becomes possible when people refuse to give up. Captain Sarah Rodriguez, flying an F-35 enhanced with Zara's modifications, dove through a formation of Veltar fighters, while broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is for everyone who ever told us humans couldn't reach the stars." Her enhanced weapons, guided by targeting systems that combined human intuition with alien precision, disabled 2 enemy ships before she had to eject from her damaged fighter. The tide of battle began to turn when Dr. Sarah Chen's analysis of Veltar biological samples provided by Keth months earlier revealed a critical weakness. The aliens' advanced healing abilities depended on specific atmospheric conditions that Earth's environment didn't provide. "They're weakening," she reported to military command. "Extended exposure to our atmosphere is degrading their physical capabilities." General Morrison smiled grimly. "All units switch to extended engagement tactics. Keep them fighting. Make them breathe our air." What followed was unlike any battle in galactic history. Instead of the quick, decisive conquest the Veltar expected, they found themselves in a prolonged fight against an enemy that seemed to grow stronger the longer the battle lasted. Human engineers, working with principles Zara had taught them, began adapting captured Veltar technology in ways its creators never intended. Weapons designed for precision strikes were modified into area effect devices. Shields meant to protect individual ships were networked together to create massive defensive barriers. "This is not possible," Admiral Korek said, watching his technically superior fleet being systematically outmaneuvered by primitive humans. "They're using our own technology against us, but in configurations that violate every principle of proper engineering." "Human engineering isn't about proper," Zara said, speaking from the command center through a hijacked communication channel. "It's about what works." The Admiral's face appeared on her screen, cold with fury. "Zara, you have doomed your own people, and for what? These short-lived primitives who will forget you in a generation?" "For love," Zara replied. "For the chance to choose who I want to be instead of what you decided I should be." The final phase of the battle began when Commander Thex, leading ground forces in Chicago, cornered Zara and Marcus in the construction site where she had first learned to appreciate human ingenuity. "It ends here," Thex said, his weapon trained on Marcus. "Come with me now or watch him die." Zara stepped protectively in front of Marcus. "You trained me to be a soldier. You taught me that protecting innocent life was the highest duty. I'm finally doing what you taught me. These humans are not innocent, Thex replied. They are primitives who will drag the galaxy down to their level if they are allowed to spread beyond this world. Look around you, Zara said, gesturing at the partially constructed building they stood in. This structure violates every engineering principle you taught me, but it will stand for 100 years because humans build with heart as well as math. They're not dragging anyone down. They're showing us what we could become if we stopped being afraid of feeling. For a moment, Thex hesitated. Then Jake and his construction crew appeared from concealment, surrounding the Veltar soldiers with nothing but their courage and improvised weapons. She's our friend, Jake said simply. You want her? You go through us. The standoff was broken by news from orbit. The Veltar fleet, battered by sustained human resistance and weakened by Earth's atmosphere, was retreating. All ships, return to hyperspace, Admiral Korex ordered. This world is not worth the losses we are sustaining, but as the fleet prepared to leave, Commander Thex made an unexpected decision. He lowered his weapon and looked at Zara with something like pride. Maybe you were right, he said quietly. Maybe there are things more important than the Empire's expansion. Come with us, Zara offered. Earth has room for people who want to start over. Thex shook his head. My place is with the fleet, but... He paused, looking around at the humans who had risked their lives to protect Zara. Perhaps I can convince others that some worlds are better left in peace. After the Veltar fleet disappeared into hyperspace, Earth celebrated its victory while dealing with the reality of contact with galactic civilization. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and that knowledge changed everything. But for Zara and Keth, the most important changes were personal. 6 months after the battle, they stood together in a small ceremony that would have been impossible on their birth world. Marcus took Zara's hands as the judge read the human marriage vows. Do you promise to love, honor, and cherish each other, for better or worse, in sickness and health, for as long as you both shall live? We do, they said together, and Zara felt the truth of those words in every cell of her being. At the same ceremony, Elena and Keth exchanged rings that Sarah Chen had helped them design, simple bands that incorporated metal from both worlds, symbolizing the joining of two different peoples through love. When we were exiled, Keth said during the reception, our people expected us to die on this primitive world. Instead, we learned how to truly live. Jake raised his glass of champagne. To Zara and Keth, he said, who taught us that family isn't about where you come from. It's about who you choose to stand with. The celebration continued late into Yuan, the night. But eventually the two couples found themselves alone on the roof of Marcus's building, looking up at stars that no longer seemed cold and